Hi everyone, today I am going to be doing something a little bit different. I am going to be sharing with you my K-pop collecting tips. These are going to be kind of my top 10 tips since I've been collecting for about a year or so, maybe closer to a year and a half, and it's been enough time for me to have made all of the seemingly stupid, at least to me, mistakes or mistakes that are easy to kind of fall into. So I'm just going to kind of share with you some things that I wish I could have told myself before I started collecting. So let's get into it. So, tip number one that I am going to give to you guys is research before you commit. There we go. And by that, I just kind of mean figure out what you're committing to when you say, I'm going to collect every single thing for group XYZ. Because I started out collecting, saying I'm going to collect every single Momoland thing that exists. And there were albums that I didn't know exist. I was like, I'm just going to collect all of their albums. And then I got the 5 Korean minis. I was like, okay, done. But there was Wonderful Love, there was Momoland the Best, there was all the Japanese albums. So there was a lot that I didn't know about when I committed to that. So there we go. So I just genuinely, think that that's important. Just knowing what the group has out and also how expensive it is to get a hold of that stuff, because some groups may have every single release of theirs in print. Some of them may have quite a lot of out of print stuff, and you may want to sort of redefine what you are collecting before being like, oh, well, I'm going to get all of this, and then feeling like you have to because you said you were going to, or having this feeling of but I wanted to do this, and instead, before you start on anything, having that clear idea of what it is you're actually committing to, if that makes sense. Obviously, you can change your collection goals as you go. If you find something you're like, hey, that isn't worth it to me, that's too expensive, I can't do that, or there's too many of those, I can't do that, you can change it. But I think a lot of us fall into this trap of, well, I said I was going to do this, so now I have to follow through, or, well, I said I was going to do this, and now I just feel like I want to. Whether it's pressure from peers, pressure from social media, or if it's just pressure from ourselves because we already started something and want to finish it. That's why I think it's important to, before you start collecting any new group, kind of set that boundary so that way it's a little bit easier if before you start you get that figured out versus trying to adjust it as you've gone. So that's that one. And then number 2 is decide on your priorities. Now, this is also, again, something else you can adjust as you go, but it's easier. Which group, which inclusions are you going to focus on? Albums? Are you going to focus on photo cards? Are you going to focus on light sticks? Are which group is more important to you? That kind of stuff is also, as you add groups, or if you're starting collecting for the first time, kind of deciding what groups you're going to collect in what order, or which groups you want to collect faster. And kind of the easiest way to figure this out is if these two groups released albums at the same time and you only had money for one, which group would you get first? Because, obviously, you could get one or the other at a later time, but let's say they're both the same, neither one is super limited, neither one, they're both going to be around, which one are you getting first? And that can kind of help you decide, well, this is the one I want to collect more. and you can prioritize and photo cards, which photo cards would you collect, which groups do you want light sticks for, do you want light sticks at all, just kind of deciding that, which items and which groups you're going to collect makes it a little bit easier and a little bit less stressful. So if you're at a point where you need to maybe cut back, you can say, okay, well, these are the ones that are at the top of my list, so I am just going to focus on those and step back from maybe some of my other secondary collections. And then deciding what items you're collecting is kind of difficult because sometimes there's something that doesn't exist yet, and then you have to decide, okay, well, am I getting that or not? Because, I mean, photo cards, when those were introduced to the K-pop world, there were a lot of people who had just been buying albums for these groups who now there was this new thing that they had to be like, well, am I going to collect these, or, what am I going to do with this? And that, groups will come out with new things all the time, so it's figuring out what you're collecting, but kind of the three main things are light sticks, photo cards, and albums, and deciding what out of those three things you're collecting is kind of the start for a lot of people. Are you collecting photo cards for this group? If so, what members are you collecting? Are you collecting all of them? Are you collecting only your bias or your top two or your top three? And figuring that out is, that's another start. And that's kind of going into the fourth one, which these two are very similar, which decide who you're collecting. And that may change. It may be for photo cards you may collect every member, but then for like events or rare things you only collect one, or for like broadcast cards you only collect one if you even collect those. So there's a lot that, I would say when it comes to collecting, instead of saying, oh, I'm going to collect everything or having blanket statements, I think it's easier if you decide to collect one set at a time, or just you're going to collect just album photo cards, or, rather than just everything, because I made that mistake with Momoland where I'm like, I'm collecting everything, and I didn't understand what that was, and even now it's like they're the Japanese inclusions. I'm not collecting those. And at the time, I was thinking that was something I was going to do, and it's like, I'm not doing that. So these two I think are very important, especially since a lot of times people they'll start collections and then they'll drop it because it's too much. And a lot of times it's because they're collecting more than what they thought, or it could be like twice where they jump from having like one or two cards per member to 9, and then there's like so much that it gets overwhelming. So I think taking it as it goes is another thing that would help, rather than trying to set a ground like, I'm getting this, and this, and going forward with that, and then picking new things. I don't know if I'm making a lot of sense. I'm trying to explain it, but it's kind of rambly because it's hard to explain my thoughts. That's why I'm doing this, so you guys can at least see the basics, and then everything I'm saying is kind of sub information to that. Number 5, which is an important one. Research prices of your items and explore all of the options to obtain them, because some items a lot of times will get overpriced, Some of them get priced by member. Some of them, it really just, a whole bunch of things can happen. And I think before you start, it's important to figure out what that price point is, because you may be like, oh, I really want that photo card set. Oh, the going rate for those is like $200 and there is no cheaper option. Maybe I'm not going to do that because of how expensive it is, you know? Because I mean, $200 can buy a lot. Like, there are a lot of albums that can buy. There's a lot of normal photo cards that can buy, and that may not be worth it to do. But there also may be a cheaper option that you can find. I was very closed off. I pretty much only used eBay and Amazon, but there are so many other ways to get stuff. Instagram and Twitter are amazing ways because people will resell their stuff on there that they don't want or find trades through there. Mercari is another good one that you can get some stuff really inexpensive. And just, there are a lot of album sites that are like that specialize in K-pop goods that I just didn't know existed, and they'll have like special pre-order benefits for like with buying albums. But I think that exploring the prices of everything is important because you may be able to get a better deal, and if you're looking at collecting a substantial amount of stuff, you want to do it in the most cost-effective way possible so you can get the most amount of stuff possible. Because groups are always going to be coming out with new things, and you don't want to spend all your money on, you know, like one set of things when you could have maybe spent half that if you looked around a little bit more. I don't have good transitions, and I wish I was better at speaking. So this is the more practical part that I feel like not a lot of people talk about, is setting a budget and evaluating the plans that you've come up with here to that budget. Because you may decide, okay, this is what I want to do, these are the members I want, this is the amount of stuff I want to get, and then realize how expensive that is and take a step back that maybe that's not realistic. And I am definitely guilty. The fact that I have completed Momoland's Wonderful Love photo card set is proof that I am guilty of this, that I have not set clear budgets, and it has been detrimental to me. It's made collecting more stressful than it should have been or needed to be, because I wanted items that were expensive. So instead of spending the money I spent on those on a lot of the other stuff for other groups that I also wanted, I instead focused it all on one thing. And while I'm very happy with the items I have, like, I don't regret getting them, I feel like it's made me realize that's not something I want to do for any other group, and I want to be able to collect in a more sustainable way. And I think that that's important because collecting shouldn't be stressing you out to the point where it's not fun anymore. And I feel like it can if you don't if you're not realistic about it, it can. Because this doesn't necessarily mean that you can't collect everything. You just maybe have to do it at a slower pace. Now, it can be hard because stuff goes in and out of print and whatnot, but a lot of the times you can wait and do it a little bit more slowly and do it a bit more sustainably that way. Because I film my stuff, kind of feel the pressure. Like right now I'm doing this style of video because I don't have anything to unbox, because I don't have anything new that I could get. But that's why I kind of wanted to point this out, because I think that that's something that is important, and another very real factor for people is that we see all these channels unboxing all this stuff, and we forget that it's like, we think that we have to be getting a new box every single day or a new photo card trade every single day, and it's like that's not realistic for everyone. And it's great if you are working and you're able to afford to do that, but I also think it's important we remind ourselves to all look at our individual situations before we try to set our standards to like those other collectors that we see on this platform, because their situations are not the same as our own. And I think that's just something that everyone needs to hear before they start collecting, that you're not going to go, especially if you're younger and you maybe don't have a job yet or you're in school, you probably won't be able to do it as quickly, and that's okay. So you go on your own pace, either maybe collecting some stuff a little, maybe collecting less or collecting slower or prioritizing different things. That is up to you, but that is something that I definitely think you need to consider if you are starting a collection. Another important one, find a safe way to store all of the items that you are collecting, because you do not want to spend money on a photo card or an album only to have it get ruined because you don't have a place to put it. You don't necessarily need to have this giant shelf for stuff and have it all displayed all pretty. I had my stuff in drawers for a while. Just make sure that you have a place to put everything that you're ordering, because I know it's easy when it's just pictures online and we just click purchase. At least I do, because I'm an international collector, but a lot of the times, it gets here and then it's like, oh right, I have to put it somewhere. So I think that's an important step, is when you're collecting, make sure that you have somewhere safe so that way it doesn't get damaged. If you're collecting photo cards, if you don't have a binder right away, or if you don't have penny sleeves right away, or if you don't have, the like page protectors right away, a lot of times if you bought it from someone and they shipped it to you, it usually will come in a penny sleeve and a top loader. And hold on to those when you get those, because then you can just reuse those and you don't have to buy your own. I have so many of them and I have not bought any myself. I've just kept them from trades. And also you can put, if you get them from an album, for the most part, you can usually store it back in the album. If it's something that's like a box, or maybe if you have a few different albums and there's one more suited to storing things, you can put them in there, just making sure that you have somewhere safe for them. Autographed items as well. I had mine wrapped in the plastic that they originally came in, and over time it did start to wear at it a little bit, so I took that off. So definitely keep an eye on your items and make sure they're stored safe. Polaroids need something that's UV protecting, that keeps them safe. Don't put them in the sun. Definitely, if you have any questions about anything, research it, so, because you don't want to buy something and it get ruined. Oh, and take your batteries out of your light sticks. Don't let the batteries corrode in there. If you have Blackpink's light stick, it's going to be difficult. There are videos doing it with scissors. Get a pair of pliers. It works so much better. So, if you have Blackpink's light stick and you don't know what I'm talking about, take out the first battery, and then you'll know what I'm talking about, because you can't take the second one out. At least, not without pliers. So, making sure you have space for your items. It's it's similar, but if you're collecting long term and you're collecting a lot of things, You don't necessarily need a lot of space when you're starting out, but as you start accumulating albums, you're going to need a couple shelves worth to store them. Bookshelves make good storage spaces. Drawers can, really just anywhere that you can put them, but make sure you have the physical space for it, because if you don't have the space, then that circles back to 7, where you may not have a safe way to store it if you just don't have the space, period, for some of your stuff. So definitely try to find some space that you have, and maybe some safe space. Maybe if there's something in your room, if you feel comfortable, like you can store your stuff in another room and that'd be fine and that'd be safe, that's good. But maybe if you don't feel that way, maybe there's something else in your room that you could store elsewhere, or just downsize in general. Because K-pop albums, it takes up a lot of space. So, or it can if you collect a lot, depending on how much you're looking to collect. So make sure you have the appropriate amount of space and that you're able to store everything safely. And then number 9, do it because you love it. I feel like people in the community don't hear this enough. I think there's starting to be more of a movement on this, but you should be collecting things because you love it, not because you feel like you have to. I mean, with Momoland, I want to finish that collection just because it would be a group that I've finished to completion. And it's just something I could say I've done and I've tried, and I maybe don't want to do with any other group because of how difficult it was. But I had fun collecting it. I mean, I'm still enjoying my collection. I've just been doing it for so long that I'm like, I'm done. I'm ready to just have that final product because I'm so close to being done. So definitely collect groups because you love them. And if you start maybe not liking a collection, try switching to maybe another group you're wanting to collect and see if maybe you want to go back to that collection after, if you want to focus on another one. I've enjoyed ITZY's albums a lot, and I think that's going to be the next group I focus on a little bit more. They're still a relatively new group. I don't know if we can still call them rookies anymore, but they're still pretty new and a little bit easier to collect, and I just enjoy them a lot. So I, you know, that's also why I've been unboxing a lot of albums from a lot of different groups. There hasn't been as much Momoland stuff. One, because I've already got most of it. There's not much else I can film. But two, because I enjoy these other groups and I'm having a lot of fun unboxing them. So definitely, if you're collecting, do it because you absolutely love it. Then, number 10, have fun. That's really it. Have fun collecting. If you followed this stuff, I know this isn't everything, but these are just some general things. There's all other videos you can watch if you still feel like you need some more information. I'm sure there are people out there who've been collecting way longer than me who have some tips that I don't necessarily know, but I definitely just, it's about having fun, and if it becomes not fun, then, maybe you need to take a step back from it. Maybe you need to see if maybe something in here is part of the problem, or if there's something else that's part of the problem. But collecting should be fun, and I hope that all of you who decide to collect or are collecting have fun doing it. I hope this was helpful to some of you guys. Let me know if you liked this style of video. I wasn't really sure how to present it, so I did this because I didn't want you just staring at my rug for 25 minutes while I just talked. This gave it a little bit more structure, I hope, and I hope that you guys enjoy this, and yeah, I hope this helped some of you. Definitely let me know if you want more kind of videos like this in the future. I love you guys. Bye!